Hi everyone, today I'm gonna walk you through how I made Behind the Pitfall, and if you want to check it out, it's on my Instagram. So first I started out with sketching. I think I had 8 sketches. With the 8 sketches, I chose 6 of them. Then for the digital process I'm gonna show you today. First thing, I start with blocking out the scene. For this shot, I think I went for the landscape. You can enable it with the Blender add-ons, then played around with the mesh until I found something that matches my sketch, and I compared the landscape with a human size. This would give you the right scale, which would make the whole scene look more realistic. After that, I went to the Botanic plugin and chose the assets that I wanted to use. I compared them to a reference. This would make the whole scene match the vibe that you want. Always have a reference. I went and added these trees, these 4 variations. So I scattered them with scatter add-on. For the scatter, it's a great add-on which gives you a different variation of particles. I think it has a great camera optimization. It will optimize your scene based on the camera view. And for the display, you can have different displays. I chose the closest one to my models. Then to add depth to the scene, I added these rocks, which will add a sense of depth. You can differentiate the foreground from the background. Now I'm gonna start with the lighting. You see, this is the scene without any light. It doesn't have a depth. You can't know how far things are. I think the most useful thing is to use an HDRI, which will use a real light scenario, as you can see. Then I added the lights. I'm gonna start with the sun. For the sunlight, everything looks much brighter. You can read your shot. I made everything blue to match my idea, or to match the color scheme that I chose. Then I added this red light. So in this scene, my goal was to make it more mysterious with adding the red light. For the point light, it's just a regular point light. Then I think I added a highlight for this tree because you cannot know if it's close or far, so it's much brighter. And later you can edit the colors to match the whole scene, or you can keep it like this. I kept it like this because I liked the highlight. And you can make it as a fake sun. For the fog, I had 2 variations. For the first fog, I used a small scale to add smoke to my scene. For the second one, I made it denser. Let me switch this off. It's much denser and sharper than the second one. And together, this is what you will get from the light. I think it's an easy shot. It doesn't have much. I'm gonna show you this cool technique right now. So when you look at any reference, you can see that the foreground is much darker than the background, and in the background the light even become more brighter. So I add this plane to add more light, because the far that you go, the more lighter the scene would look. Right now I'm gonna show you how I made it in material. Let's look at it. I think it's a simple material, you could use it, and I used it in most of the shots. So I took this gradient texture and added a color ramp with a transparent BSDF, and you can use the value. It will give you the same as an emission node. So if you made the value higher, it would give you much brighter look. And I think that's it for the first shot. I added some smoke in Photoshop, corrected the light, made the red more vibrant, and yeah, that's it. The second scene is my favorite one. There is a lot of small techniques that I used, but before that, let me show you how I made the terrain look like this. So now I'm gonna show you how I created the pit. Let's start by adding a plane. Click on Shift A, choose a plane, go to modifiers and add a subdivision surface. Increase the count and change it to simple to keep the geometry the same. Now let's import our brushes. So Let's go to File, Append, find the file that you downloaded, click on the Blender file, then you will see brushes. Click on the file and select the brushes that you want. After you imported the brush, go to Draw, then the Tools tab, and here you can find all the brushes that you imported. Choose one and start drawing. As you notice, there is not much detail in this. So to fix this, we need to enable Dyn Topo. After you enable it, decrease the detail size to get more detail. Now we have more detail, and if we zoomed in, that will create more geometry, which means more texture to the mesh. If we went back to object mode, you can smooth out your shape to look more natural. And to create the pit, let's go to editing mode, click on proportion editing, press G and then the Z axis. So this is how I created the pit effect. You could use it in roads to add detail to any mesh or to create caves. It's an easy and useful technique. Here I went back and forth to create more detail. Let's go back now and see how it looks in the scene. Let's look at the mesh that I used. So you can see that I only added details in the most necessary places. Anything that's not shown in the camera or will be covered with trees and grass doesn't have much detail. The same idea was used here for the landscape. This doesn't have much poly count. I just used it to fill up the space. One last trick that I want to share is how to make the camera look like it was taken in a photo shoot. In the camera settings, there is a fisheye options that you can unlock by changing the type to panoramic and the panorama type to fisheye. If you wanted to achieve this shallow depth of field, lower the f-stop and increase the ratio.